So, if you would take a seat. So, this is your opportunity to ask questions. Yes?
In the Buddhist, in this tradition, it's always pointing to what we're not. It doesn't really give a defined description of what we are. If it's not form or beings or things that come into consciousness, which most people would say these things come in and they affect this thing that I can't find, me. But we can't define what it is. It's just a state of things that arise and we react. Something reacts to it. There's still got to be something to react, isn't there?
Well, this is the ultimate question. That can't be answered. Because an answer would define, you're used to thinking of yourself always with in the forms of a self or a being of some sort. So, and the Buddha in this particular style, in the Pali tradition, it's aimed basically to not give you any possibility of becoming anything. So what it does is it just what actually bhavana or cultivating this path is you're letting everything go. It's total relinquishment till there's nothing, and that's what you are. But that can sound rather stark, but it's like you're not anything you think or a physical being, but you're not a thing, in other words. You're not a condition, not a person, not anything that's conceivable. And so this is where, that's why you can't really conceive it or think about it. But as you cultivate this way, then more and more you recognize Dhamma, deathless reality, ultimate reality. You recognize it's real. It's not just a kind of theoretical reality or a abstract idea of reality. It's real here and now. And then we're experiencing reality within the structures of the human body and then the conditioning that we've acquired, like the sense of yourself as a man, or as a English person, as this or that. That's acquired kind of condition. That's conventional reality. But then, this is the way. But you're just taking, like peeling an onion. You take off layers, and when you get, there's nothing. but no thing isn't like it's not like it's not annihilation, but it's beyond conception. And this is why I refer to it usually like intuition or universal, universal conscious. It's transcendent. It's not limited and bound in conditions. It's the noumenon. Now you can't, and that points to it, but it doesn't define it. You call it a non-state, and so the states are, things that come and go and change. The state of mind, the state of your body, this is dependent on conditions, and the states are changing. The non-state is what we, through letting go of the states, we begin to realize the noumena, or the non-state, or the non-self, or non-attachment. So this is where thinking you have to let go of thinking. And this is the ultimate act of faith too. Is like the monastic form is all about relinquishing. So to be a samana, like this is a samana tradition that we're in here. It's not about becoming, it's about relinquishing. And so it's totally against the whole worldly conditioning that we have. It's like I'm conditioned, being American, I'm conditioned to attain and achieve. My whole ego structure, my whole sense of myself is based on the ideals of attainment, achievement, becoming something or other. And then you become you enter this samana tradition, and then it's about non-becoming, about non-attachment. And so this is where you're going against the whole ethos of worldly beliefs and traditions and the worldly mind in yourself and in the society. But it does, like I find in my own experience of it, it does, through this relinquishing. It's like like suffering is all about attaching to things. So it's like you're always frightened or worried or on the ego level. There's always stress or something going wrong, or possibly something will go wrong, or failure, or worry and anxiety. Even as I was pointing out before, in a stable, affluent society that we live in, people's stress levels are incredibly high. And why is that? You could, because of the cultural conditioning, it's all about achieving and attaining and getting, and then the whole society is about becoming. It's trying to prove yourself, get something, get more money. It's so materialistic now. The idea of having all the best new things, latest model, better car, better this, better that, and the whole, the government wants you to go out and spend all your money to keep for the economy. So you're encouraged, you're continuously being, told that you should go out and spend all your money for the economy's sake. And then, and so the time, and then the time now is one of the ego is so strong. It's such a strong sense of self-importance, my rights and what I think, and you hear it. Like I like to listen to Radio 4 sometimes, and they have these interviews, and they have quite interesting people talking, and it's all about trying to get something, improve everything, and asserting yourself, becoming somebody. And then what the monastic form does is you're letting go of that. You're not becoming. And if you are, you're using it all wrong. So it's like I feel, like people will say to me, they see me as a person. Ajahn Sumedho's birthday, Ajahn Sumedho is retiring, and then they'll say, "Oh, Ajahn Sumedho, you've done so much, building these monasteries. Ajahn Sumedho, so that then, this is the conventional way of looking at it. But the reality behind that is, I don't feel I've done anything. It's not like this is a plan that my vision, and I put this plan to work here. I can't claim it. It's happened. Because the conditions for it to happen are present, but it's not personal. So it's through the seeing of, this letting go of the self. Because, whenever I see myself coming in and thinking, I've done all this, I know that is not to believe in it. And we all have kind of personal hang-ups. We have personal weaknesses. So personal, living in monastic communities, and we all shave our heads and put on brown robes, but there's no two monks or nuns the same. They're all different, and so we have the same, the samana life, the alms mendicant life, but then we've got to deal with our own particular karmic tendencies. And so what leaves, like anatta, non-self, there's nothing. Well, if there's no ego, there's no Ajahn Sumedho, no self, what is there to become? Except there is this knowing becomes stable. It's not a conceptual knowing about something. It's not knowing about Buddhism anymore. It's not a kind of knowing that depends on conditions supporting it. It's a profound knowing. It's called like insight knowledge, jnana dasana, these words. So it does give you this freedom from being bound to the position or the conditions that you're experiencing through the form, through the samana form, or one can become an egotistical bhikkhu. And that would be a misuse of the form. It's not supposed. The aim of it's to not become, to let go of becoming, or see the suffering that one creates through trying to become something. Like one of the questions I put to people, like say, why do we practice meditation? Why do you come here? Or ask like on a retreat, why have you come here? 10-day retreat in that retreat center, and why do you come? Well, you could be, lying on the beach in Mallorca or someplace. And here you're kind of crowded and jammed in this stuffy room with. Why do you do that? And this is, and then of course the ego says, well, I'm somebody that is unenlightened, and I have problems, and I have fears, and I want to practice in order to become enlightened or resolve my problems. So this is the ego operating. We start meditating usually because we don't like ourselves, or we see something's wrong with me, with ourself, and that we think maybe meditation might help. And so like saying, speaking for myself, that brought me into the monastic life, and then Ajahn Chah kept, pointing to the fact that there's no self, and in the sense that I'm here in order to become enlightened. Suddenly I could see that is something I create. I'm not good enough the way I am. I need to practice hard in order to become an arahant or whatever. And so then you see that, you begin to observe. You're trusting this awareness rather than believing, operating from any position, like I'm not good enough, I've got to do something in order to become somebody better. To contemplate that, we do see, the ego, it can be very tyrannical because usually it's very much aware of what's wrong with you, what you don't like about yourself. Isn't it? Your ego usually it's you're more conscious of your faults or weaknesses or fears than anything. And so, you want to get rid of fear, get rid of anger and so forth, because, good people shouldn't be angry or jealous and frightened. They should be, healthy person is normal, happy, healthy, wealthy, wise. Happy. She should be happy all the time and shouldn't be stressed. And you shouldn't be envious or jealous of somebody else. You shouldn't be frightened. You should be brave and forgiving. You should forgive your enemies and kind to everybody. And then you see, you're envious, jealous, sometimes quite cruel, unkind. At least some of the thoughts one has. Like that, then you think, I'm not very good. Or, what I'm pointing at is this thing, whether you think I'm the best or I'm the worst, or it's still thinking. And so what I'm pointing at is not to believe you don't exist, but to begin to change from operating from the ego to the observing the ego. Putting the ego in a position as an object rather than operating always from the ego as your subjective way of interpreting experience. Because from the ego level, you always get it wrong. Always. Ego cannot be trusted. Or if I think, well, there's nothing wrong with me, I don't really need to meditate, I'm perfect the way I am, that's the ego also. But most people that I meet don't come from that position. And then in this country, like the English character tends to be self-critical. It's quite self-disparaging. So it's because we do give so much importance to what's wrong, what we don't like. And why is that? Why do we do that? And it's because we all have ideas, we have opinions about how we should be. As a good person, a good man, a good woman, a good mother, a good father, a good citizen. It should be. And then that's an ideal. But we've got to live with the realities of now, which is not ideal, isn't it? With what's happening, with emotionally, what's going on, which is not an ideal. You can't have ideal emotions. We'd love to have always metta, loving kindness, compassion for everybody, unfledging, unrelenting, unmitigated loving kindness. That's an ideal, but this is the reality of it. Sometimes, there's hardly any metta for anybody. But the awareness, you see, is what you can trust. So like when you hate everybody, then awareness of that. Then you're cultivating the path. So you hate everybody at this moment. It's like this. Or you feel guilty. You feel you hate your children or your husband or wife or partners or parents or whatever, and you shouldn't. Then you're aware of that. It's like this. And the guilt. If if you're brought up that you should love your parents, and you hate them, then you feel guilty. You see, that's just pointing to the ego operating. Where awareness of the ego is not taking sides or telling you what you should do, but it's knowing it. It's discerning. The ego is a condition that changes. You can't be the same personality under every moment of the day. It changes according to other conditions. The state of whether you're hungry or not, or healthy or sickly, or people are treating you well or treating you badly or whatever. You still the awareness. The personality will change, from being happy-go-lucky, loving, joyful person to being a miserable wretch, because the conditions for being miserable are present. You can't be happy-go-lucky and loving and sweet when the conditions are miserable and terrible. But you can be aware of the changing conditions. Now that awareness is a refuge. It's the safety that we have. Safe. That's the way out of suffering. The escape hatch. Also contemplate, like this realm is, this planetary system. It's so powerful, this universe, just, you think of yourself as your human body, and what is it? We're very helpless little creatures. These soft bodies easily squashed. What if some aliens from outer space, giants, started just tromping on us? We'd be like termites. In Thailand, they have a lot of termites, and they're tiny little things with very soft, succulent bodies. And you see, Buddhist monks are not supposed to kill anything, so when the termites get into your kuti, they're so easy to kill because they've got such soft little bodies. You've got to be very careful so you don't kill them. And I kept thinking, I kept looking at the termite, thinking, wonder what that one, if they have, how they see each other. One termite. Or if they know what danger they're in when I'm there. This big, clumsy oaf is stomping around, and if they were of the danger to their physical bodies. Well, I mean, just like this universe where it's so kind of wonderful and amazing because it's so terrifying in a way. Just the power of this universal system that we have to experience through this very limited form. And that's just the way it is. If you think of it in that way, as you're just this soft body, that could be easily squashed by a giant or a meteorite or an alien from outer space, or what if the sun goes out? What if the moon crashes into the earth? What if the sky falls in? What if there's another tsunami? What if earthquake? I mean, we hear all the time about floods and earthquakes and volcanoes, and that are not because of human problems. This is because the nature of this planet is like this. So it is a dangerous realm. Like, say, the emotion of fear. This is a primal emotion of this realm, fear. It's a fear realm we're experiencing. And I'm not trying to be morbid or frighten you, but just reflect, it's survival, isn't it? Like, you look at, the forest and see the squirrels and all the creatures running about trying to, survive in the law of the jungle. the big fish eating the little ones, and on like this. So we've got that same thing. If we didn't decide not to kill each other, we can create moral agreements not to kill each other. So, where animals can't make such agreements. But we can, we have the same feeling. Sometimes we feel like killing each other, but we can agree not to. So that's where we get this sense of safety, because we have laws and regulations and so forth that we try to abide by, but there's still so many people that don't, aren't there? Criminals and murderers and stuff that you hear all the time about these kind of things going on. So the fear is a kind of primal emotion of this realm. Now, being aware of fear, awareness of fear is not frightened. So that fear isn't, it comes and goes according to conditions. But the awareness, you can be aware when you're frightened. When you feel frightened, you think, I'm frightened. And then you interpret it as if, the fear is you. But if you suddenly just recognize the conditions for fear have arisen, that which is aware of fear is not frightened. That's why it's a refuge. That's Buddha, Buddho, the awareness. So you begin to investigate your own conscious experience. You're experiencing maybe anger. Somebody's insulted you and you feel anger. That which is aware of anger isn't angry, is not anger. And so like discerning, this discernment, the panya, is to be able to discern anger and non-anger. This is the society we live in only gives us the phenomena. It's about phenomena. Everything's phenomenal. It's the culture we live in, the times, the reality for most people is about phenomena. And that's our reality, is all about birth and death and change and survival and becoming, proving, getting, trying to get rid of fear or feel safe and loved and feel something that you want that you don't have, or trying to get rid of. You can feel you shouldn't be frightened, that you should be brave. And so then you feel, I'm not very brave. a man should be brave, but I'm not. So then you create this sense of, there's something wrong with me. But what I'm doing now, just pointing to this realm is like this. This is not a realm to seek refuge in. The phenomena. There's no phenomena that will provide any security. It can give you maybe a kind of false sense of security, but and maybe that's better than not being totally paranoid and frightened. But even at its best, we still have anxiety and worry and fear of death and loss and all the rest that are part of every human being's experience of life. You just notice what is drama about, It's not about arahants or Buddhas. It's about people with problems. So you get wars and family problems, jealousies, corruption, scandals always exciting, and adultery, all these fascinating, exciting things. if they just had, like a Buddhist monk meditating in emptiness, it wouldn't be very interesting to people. But a Buddhist monk having a nervous breakdown might be. And this realm also, it is exciting realm. It is, it is a beautiful planet we live on. It's there's some sensory sensation in it. It's so, can be so wonderful, beautiful, as well as its opposite. It can go into absolute horror and hell. And so this is, we're in this peculiar position. I don't really understand what it's about, to tell the truth. But it is the way it is. And then I found in my own practice, by being aware like this, I don't suffer from it. It's not, where if I forget that and get caught up in my habits, then I can easily make my life quite miserable, not because of any direct problems, but because I tend to worry and fear and things like this. It's the karma of my life isn't arises. So if I didn't have this kind of discerning ability, I'd be, I would be, getting old, frightened, or maybe of death, or getting dementia, Alzheimer's. I don't know how many more years I'll be able to climb up castles in Portugal and ramparts, and I can't do mountains anymore. Impossible. But it is, this is like I think this is, to really see the way of looking, because the Buddha gives you very good, excellent kind of tools to use for examining experience. It's brilliant teaching, really, and it does work. But it takes this kind of reflectiveness to observe. It's not about becoming something, becoming an arhat. You'll never become an arhat. Personalities never become arhats. You never become that, enlightened person. Because the personality is impossible for it ever to be enlightened. But there's awareness that is impersonal. Now what is that? It's not, you can't claim it as mine, but it's certainly real. It's not a precious, sublime state that's dependent on everything going well. It's always here and now. Whatever state you're in or place you're in or whoever you're with. So this, like this, I really think it's important I found it very important for me to get this, what I call a paradigm, that's very clear in Buddha Dhamma, in the Pali scriptures, and that's like the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. There's this statements. Then there's the created, the born, the formed, the conditioned. So phenomena, using English words like phenomena is like sankhara in Pali. Sape sankarani cha, they chant, all phenomena is impermanent. And phenomena is the body, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, everything, the conditions of the mind, the memory, the ability to remember, emotions, feelings, pleasure, pain, neutral feelings, the whole lot. It's all phenomena. And then, would there be escape? If everything's phenomena, then there's no escape from it. Is there a phenomenon that you can find that you can get and keep? Is there one phenomenon, one thing, one place that you can get to and then keep it forever? But then this reflection, all conditions are all phenomena is impermanent as its nature. Then this emphasis on mind, what is it that knows phenomena? Because you can observe the body. Is the body really yours? Because you're aware of it. You're aware, like your posture right now, you're sitting and you can be aware of just the pressure, the feelings that you're experiencing in your body while sitting. Now that awareness, whatever you're feeling, isn't the feeling. It's aware of the feeling of maybe discomfort or comfort or whatever you're experiencing right now through sitting. So like sitting, standing, walking, lying down, 4 postures. You're aware. That which is aware of the body is not the body. And then the personality, like the ego. I'm Ajahn Sumedho and I'm a good monk or bad monk, whatever. Then that which is aware of this perception, I am Ajahn Sumedho, that awareness of that perception. You see, I can discern this awareness is not Ajahn Sumedho. That Ajahn Sumedho is a conventional form to use. It's not a kind of permanent person or soul or anything. It's merely conventional reality. That which is aware of Ajahn, of the thought, I am Ajahn Sumedho, that has no name. But it's real. It's not made up. It's not dependent on kind of blissful, sublime state. It's wherever you are. And then, this is what, this which is aware, and that which you can be aware of. So this realm, this sense realm, so I'm pointing to the whole planetary system we're experiencing right now. The sun and moon and Venus and Mars and all the rest. And plus the conditions immediate to this moment, the time of day, the hot or cold or whatever you're experiencing is like this. That which is aware of that. See, pointing again to this awareness, sati, sampajanya. And then that's not taking sides on any issue, it's just aware, it's like this. And in that awareness, then we can let go of this kind of blind attachment we have to phenomena, and the limitation. It's always binding us to fear of some sort. As long as you don't discern the difference, then you're kind of bound into a dying form. It's that Yeats poem, O sages standing in God's holy fires in a gold mosaic of a wall, come from the fire, Pun and Ajahn, be the singing masters of my soul, consume my heart away. sick with desire and fastened to a dying animal. This is what before I came to England, I used to reflect on this a lot in time. Sick with desire and fastened to a dying animal. That's what I felt like. But it gives you this, it's like relief, a sense of, this way of reflecting and changing the position from the personal and just the habitual to this reflective point. Then you start seeing things in terms of Dhamma rather than in terms of personal reactions or personal prejudices, biases, or whatever that we tend to usually interpret our experience from. Yes, like that.
Yeah, could you say something about apparent free will, as it were? If everything is kind of conditioned and dependent on other things, then presumably all our choices and decisions are as well. But on the other hand, we do actually make clear decisions and choices to say do a good thing or to go and sit and meditate or something like that. It seems to be a kind of a difficulty sort of making sense of those things.
Well, it's like the term free will is a Western concept, and it's very much part of the Western way of looking and belief. But what the Buddha is pointing to is discernment, and also like they talk a lot about karma, cause and effect. So like cause and effect are like the word karma. It means the cause you use has that kind of effect. To do good, then you get a good result. Do bad, you get a bad result. But the thing that the Buddha pointed to is the ability for a human being to reflect, not to choose, one thing or another over another, but to reflect. And then the wisdom, universal wisdom, can operate through these mortal forms. That's why you can have Buddhas or you can have enlightened individuals, but they're not personalities anymore. They might, like Ajahn Chah, he's a very charming person, but he was an enlightened master, but he wasn't, it didn't mean he lost his personality. But the personality was no longer a delusion. So, like you have, he wasn't deluded by it. So I remember one monk, Western monk, asked him one time, "You're a really charming person, and he's kind of testing Ajahn Chah out. Do you need to be so charming and turn people on? And is there some, he was into psychology, Western psychology. What is your need that you need to charm people and that kind of thing?" and then Ajahn Chah said, he said it's my magnet. He said I use it because it attracts people, and then there's a point where they might be interested in hearing the Dhamma, because he obviously didn't need us to go around just being charmed by him, but but he could use the personality he had in a skillful way. It's like all of us, we try to use the good conditions we have for good actions in the world. But free will is very much a Western ideal, and I found like law of karma very helpful because it's a good way to explain everything. Why? I was brought up as a Christian, where you're told you only have one life. And God created everyone. He loves everyone equally. He doesn't prefer one person over another. And He created us. And so then you start wondering, well, why did He create some better looking than others? Why are babies born that have defects or disabilities or... if we're all equal, we're all loved equally, why, there's kind of a logic there. So then, and you only got one lifetime, it just doesn't make sense, even to a child. Now, in the law of karma, I found, then you can explain it, like differences. We're working out, you have to learn from the way you are. This is, it can, in Thailand or Sri Lanka, a place like that, they can use it as a kind of resigned, it's my karma, just a kind of passive resignation. But that's not really karma. It's not an excuse or a kind of passive resignation to justify your faults. But it's much more like, once this is what I have to work with, this body, these tendencies, these habits, these inclinations. So then I can see it in terms of, that no matter what the defects are, they're what I learn from. Whether it's disability or disease or poverty or ugliness or whatever, it's part of, these are not obstructions to enlightenment. None of that is an obstruction. And so then you have a way of kind of learning from what you have to live with. Investigate, understanding it in terms of Dhamma rather than in terms of personal identities, comparing that you're not, somebody's better off than you are and it's not fair and things like that, which tends to get very personal. So then it's not fair. I work harder than they do and they get the raise, I don't. It's not fair. And that's the personality again. And then so like law of karma, and then discernment. Now discernment it's not about free will or free choice. It's like I compare it to grasping a flame on a candle. So you say, oh, that flame on that candle, so beautiful, red and everything, and you grasp it. And I don't have to say, now, this hurts, and I should let go of it. I just let go, because, spontaneous. So, I mean, once you see the causes of suffering, of grasping out of ignorance, you let go. It's like, it's not a choice, it's just a healthy response to the condition. It is amazing to me how, we can do this within this human state. Because, I used to feel very cynical before I started meditating. kind of, in the American system, it's so competitive. It's based on ideals of equality and fairness and all the rest, but the actual life experience is all about competition. And so you're in this. You've got all these kind of conflicting messages all the time to deal with. So you've the sense of your self-worth. It's always in comparison to somebody else, and the discerning ability is never even suggested. There's no wisdom. It's about success and being a winner and getting somewhere and proving yourself and being somebody. Now this is my cultural background, but it's based on ideals of equality and fairness and we're all the same, we're all equally good, and how things should be. But in the nitty-gritty of daily life experience, it's all about trying to get ahead of the one in front. Or the one who's coming up behind, how to stop him. Or to just give in, become a drunkard or something, just because you can't stand the competitiveness. Just check out of the system is another way of dealing with it. But I used to work when I was in university in the emergency room in a charity hospital in Seattle, and I used to see some, they bring in on the weekends, they'd bring in like old men who were like tramps and alcoholics, homeless men usually, and I'd have to clean them up, and so I got to talking to some of these guys, and they were, some of them were quite, intelligent people that just didn't want to operate in a competitive system. I could feel it, because when you're in university, at least when I was, it was very competitive. I wanted to always, my worth was dependent on where I stood in the lineup. And so this is, this is part of a cultural conditioning that forms a sense of your self-worth, where the discerning ability you can't compare it, one person to another. It's not about attainment or achievement, but learning to trust and observe, to be awake. And it's not about, you have to compete about who's more mindful, and you have to be more mindful than somebody else. And also you have to learn from the conditions you find yourself in, whether you're, paraplegic, quadriplegic, terminally ill, male or female, or young or old, or whatever, whatever is, these are not the obstructions, these are not obstructions, but they're part of the path, so even if we have, diseases or, these needn't be obstructions. So if we see them in terms of karma, that's one way of why do I have this disability and you're so healthy? And then it's my karma. It's one way of accepting it. And I have to learn from it, so, you have to learn from maybe good health, or maybe you just look healthy. We don't always, and like I said, I only see you under certain conditions. Maybe only when you're looking healthy. Do you come here? Just to reflect in this way gives you, a sense of this lifetime as a human being is something to, not dismiss or waste, really. And it's quite interesting that, like, I've been involved in Buddhism for over 50 years. You know, back in the 1950s, 60 years now. And the 1950s, you know, there wasn't any interest like this. You couldn't have a Buddhist monastery at Great Gaddiston 50 years ago. And it was, you know, it was kind of beginning to dawn on people, like on the West Coast where I'm from, West Coast of the United States, this interest in Zen Buddhism and whatnot. So it was the beginning. Suddenly, you could feel in America there was something awakening that didn't exist before. You know, it wasn't a part of the culture. It was through the war with Japan and the kind of American occupation of Japan, then the cultural exchange. Suddenly, one of the good things that we learned from Japan, occupying Japan, was Zen Buddhism. And then that became quite a kind of an intellectual fashion back in the 1950s. But it was a beginning, you know, as a way of changing one's whole kind of dualistic, rigid structure of thinking and perceiving life into different way of looking, which was, which was what fascinated me. And then over, you know, it's about 1955 when I encountered Zen, and then after that, this growing interest in Buddhist meditation. And it's because, you know, it isn't because we're interested in exotic Asian religions, it's because it's, the wisdom is available through this form, and we need it. Because we are, you know, we're going on a destruction course with our cleverness. You know, we've got, you know, the problems of overpopulation and pollution and endless, you know, the things that we human beings out of, you know, destructive weapons, atomic bombs, nuclear bombs, all the rest. You know, we've used our intelligence, not with wisdom, but with the tendency to use it to make terrible weapons. What is it with us that we spend so much money on making deadly, destructive weapons? And it's ignorance, of course. It's not understanding Dhamma that we create these fears and prejudices against, you know, seeing somebody who doesn't agree with us as the enemy. You know, so we're brought up in always with a sense of there's an enemy that you've got to prepare for, because they're going to destroy what you have. It is still the same, isn't it? It's the Al-Qaeda, you know, if it wasn't them, it'd be something else. Because that's how ignorance works. It just feeds on this ignorance, fear and ignorance. And then we have to arm ourselves to the teeth. In the Cold War, wasn't it? We had, the United States they could over-destroy the planet 100 times. And the Soviet Union was about equal in its ability to destroy everything. Now, isn't that intelligent? Overkill, you know. And yet everybody, you know, very few people questioned it. And so but then the good thing that's come out of this is a growing interest in wisdom teachings. You know, people are in the Western world, countries like this, suddenly, seeking like wisdom teachings again. And that's because of there is an awakening. And I can see it in myself, just the way that my life was transformed through just, being caught up into the system and being able to see the pointlessness of just going along with something that, because I'm conditioned to do it, just conditioned to live the American dream, middle class, white man dream. I could have just gone along with that, but there's something in me didn't really felt ill at ease with that, with the position I was in. I didn't want to live like that. And it wasn't because it was bad or anything, but it was just unsatisfying. It seemed so empty and meaningless. So, I'll stop here. Leave you to your own reflections. But I encourage you, this is good stuff, and you can really, it's for, to try and encourage. What I'm trying to do is encourage you, because it does. We need encouragement, because there isn't much to encourage us in the modern material world. In this direction. I'll stop now.